spacebar.
What does it say?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember what that said. I can't remember what that was. Something about not waking my wife up, I think. Good morning, Ray.
Hey, good morning.
Ready to ride?
39 degrees.
Yeah, this is total bullshit. This was total bullshit. A freaking popsicle is what I am.
You are. How those heated grips work?
Is this the breakfast place?
Yes, it is.
So this place here, this is called Solomon's Castle. And it's down below Sebring in the middle of nowhere. And for people who are Florida travel buffs, this is kind of a cool place. This guy built this actually for his family. It's like he took an old castle and wrapped it in tinfoil. There's a restaurant and yeah, it's just kind of cool, crazy Florida. And we have lunch there on a fairly regular basis when we ride. But it's one of those hidden, ridiculous tourist places that very few people know about. But actually the food's pretty good too. So if you want to take a day trip from Orlando, it'd probably take you a couple hours.
Right on.
But it's actually cool. So the kids that grew up there got to play. I mean, this was their playground. Can you imagine if you was a kid? Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to turn his arm.
What is it you're eating there? Explain that to us.
Chorizo torta.
It looks like some kind of giant bread clam.
Yes.
So these guys love to eat Mexican food, which sometimes is not a great idea. But that was breakfast, and I swear that thing was as big as Bob's head. But this was some, middle of nowhere Mexican restaurant that we stopped at, and it was quite wonderful. That has swallowed an entire cow.
I think I'm gonna find a pearl in the middle.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh boy, things are happening now. We're on is the Cracker Trail. The Cracker Trail is you just follow through Florida, and it's loosely based on the book of Land Remembered, which is historical fiction about the state of Florida and how the post-Civil War family that settled here and drove cattle and did really good. If you've never read the book of Land Remembered, if you're a Florida history buff, it's an absolute must. So we kind of followed the trail. The hypothetical trail had it been legit, which I'm sure in some way, shape, or form it was.
We're gonna do this podcast thing.
Okay, so we're getting ready to start the conversation about money. And we're at breakfast on our last day. This is our third or fourth day. And we'd been riding obviously for a few days. And I basically asked the guys, I warned them, and the group is a diverse group. Bob on the left there is somewhat of a nuclear engineer. Ray, who isn't showing up in the shadows very well, is actually a orthopedic children's orthopedic back surgeon. Dave does some nuclear engineering kind of stuff too, and then you'll see Clint in a minute, and Clint's a NASA engineer. He's literally a rocket scientist. So these are all smart guys, but all in their mid to late 50s, all about to enter the red zone of retirement. And I thought, who better to ask than these idiots I ride with what they think about money and what they worry about.
Yeah, you want to kick it off?
So what is this, a financial podcast?
It is. Do you know how to kick off a ScottCast?
No.
You don't watch my
Do you have
podcast,
a
right?
Mustang behind me?
Does help if you have a flapped out Mustang in
Yeah,
there.
and you have a Mustang behind me. A nice mic.
So what you have to say, Ray, is welcome to ScottCast, the podcast, episode 24. It's 24, right, Vin? Yes, episode 24.
Really? Good.
Yep. And can you do that,
Yeah.
Dr. Wu?
Yeah. Welcome to ScottCast, the podcast, episode 24.
That was pretty good. It wasn't terrible.
My name's Vladimir.
Dave Vladimir.
So what we'll do real quick is we'll go around the table. You all have to sign waivers, by the way.
Okay.
You have to verbally agree. Everybody verbally agree to be on my podcast. Bob, you look a little dubious.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want my parole officer to see this.
Let me get the mustache and the fake glasses.
All right, so we'll go around the table and we'll ask, as middle-aged men, about your no, we won't ask about that. Sorry. Cut that. I'll make it quick. Your number one financial worry in retirement. What troubles you the most? What is your biggest concern?
Doesn't everyone have the same concern that they'll outlive their money?
Is that yours?
It is.
Yeah.
That my children won't have the resources they need to be successful.
So you're worried about leaving money to your children?
Well, Jeffrey specifically.
Gotcha.
So it's critical here. Bob has a special needs child who actually is now in his 20s, since I've known him since he was born. And, you know, like a lot of people have special needs kids, you know, whether they're autistic or, obviously there's a variety of things that could fall into that category. They're concerned that their resources won't extend beyond them to care for these children they've been caring for and are now sometimes young adults or even older adults. And I know I have retired clients who have quote-unquote adult children in their 40s that are special needs folks and require ongoing care. So one of Bob's biggest concerns is that, which he obviously expresses here.
Gotcha. Okay, so if you have special needs kids in particular, that's a thing.
It's an additional concern.
Yes. I hadn't even thought of that. Dr.
You're my
Wu?
financial advisor.
Oh, shit. We'll edit that out. Dr. Wu?
So my biggest concern is not knowing how to estimate how much I need to live on if I retire. And if I don't know how much I need to live on when I retire, I don't know how much I need to save before I retire.
I feel like a good, competent financial advisor could do that for you.
A financial
I am
advisor-
not his financial advisor.
Financial advisor has been bugging me to sit down and give me a list of my expenses, my budget
Oh boy.
for the last 10 years.
I don't want to share that again.
And I'm going to tell you why you don't want to do that. And
get
there's
back to your wife.
8 motorcycles in our little garage together, and that's part of the reason you don't want to fess up.
So Dr. Wu is fond of his motorcycles. He has a few of them. So we're going to have to prod him to go see his financial advisor and fess up to his collection that is accumulating in our joint storage facility.
And he's been telling me to please give him information in terms of what my plans are for my kids, where I want to live or retire, what my expenses are going to be. And I've been lacking, and he's been pushing me. And so I guess my biggest concern is how can my financial advisor, how can my guy make it easy for me to do the unpleasant thing, which is to itemize financially my life.
Well, he should schedule a couple hours and force you to do that.
That honesty check is going to be painful for all of us.
I always tell my clients that I'm going to
mean-
liquidate their accounts and send them money overseas if they don't show up for their appointment. Dave?
Mine is
Yes, I will do that. I will liquidate your account and send it to the Cayman Islands if you don't show up for your appointment.
probably medical
Yeah.
related of what may happen as you get older and need more medical attention.
Especially for a guy who rides 85 miles an hour on the interstate.
Especially
Quick story here. Dave, who used to race motorcycles, still thinks he races motorcycles. So we're riding adventure bikes, which are not Harleys by any stretch, or Goldwings for those of you at home who know what that is. Riding semi-off-road bikes, and he's going 85 miles an hour standing up down the interstate, and I'm trying to keep up with him. Stop that, Dave.
Standing up.
On a single cylinder motorcycle.
Yeah. I think I read that uninsured medical expenses for a 60-year-old right now could approach $250,000 in their lifetime. Which is entirely possible.
Significant.
Yeah.
So Scott, you're going to talk about the value of long-term care insurance?
I can talk about it. Yeah. Clint?
Those are what Ray and Dave are saying are my biggest concerns is what the how much it's going to cost for medical insurance. Those are unknowns. I can have a pretty good idea what I need to live on, but what I don't know is the cost of those insurance, once you're at retirement age.
So like supplemental insurance.
Right. Right now it's from my employer, and yeah.
How to address that?
How to address that, and really what my monthly expenses are going to be, factoring in insurances.
So I think one critical takeaway from it is that budgeting, sitting down with a pencil and a yellow pad. Look at Bob's face. Make that face, Bob. Make that yellow pad face.
I've never seen that face.
Yeah.
That's a horrible thing.
That's a new face.
Yeah, that's a.
Well, the truth hurts.
Yeah. So I think that is. So all of the things that have been mentioned can be addressed in about an hour. They say the average American spends. Ray, you can speak to this. 2 weeks a year planning their vacations, and about 2 minutes planning their retirement. So it's hopefully you're retired a little bit longer.
I spent a
But
week
that's
planning
why you don't-
this weekend's ride.
You don't hire a vacation planner. You hire a financial planner.
But if he won't go in to see said financial planner,
If he's doing his job, he doesn't need to see me. That's what I say.
that will also be edited out. Well, all right. Well, thank you guys. It's been a fun ride.
Thank you.
It's been awesome.
So before we leave that, I think it's critical to point out that these are concerns we hear all the time. The yellow pad thing is, to me, that's the critical part. I cannot tell you how many people I talk to who are 60 or 63, they're a year out, they're 2 years out, and they've never even sat down. They don't know what their budget is, they don't know what they spend. And I think part of it is just fear. It's like weighing yourself. You're like, I don't want to know what I weigh after Christmas, and if you don't know, men are notorious for not wanting to go to the doctor because they figure if they don't know, it can't kill them, right? And this is not something you want to do that with, because you get to the end of the road, you run out of real estate, you can't work anymore, and you still don't know how much you need to live on. Therefore, you don't know how much you need in a pot to produce that income, right? So these guys are, I thought they were pretty honest about what their concerns were, and I'm sure everybody who watches this video who isn't yet retired anyway will have similar concerns. Clint was talking about supplemental insurance, and Dave was talking about the cost of healthcare in retirement. And I spit out a number that I've heard that's $250,000 a year in uninsured costs. Now, sometimes I think that's a little exaggerated based on what I've seen, but it certainly isn't nothing. There is going to be some uninsured costs associated to meet deductibles and things like that. Dave later intimated to me that I think only because he was afraid his wife would see this, that his other main concern was that his wife would be able to live if he was gone, and would he be able to provide for her and know that whoever he left, because his wife isn't as involved as maybe she should be in the finances, whoever he left her to deal with would take good care of her at that time. So all those, from Bob's concern about his son with special needs, which you got a budget for that. Well, what does it cost? What does it cost for his services? How much money do I need to have in a bucket for that if I'm gone? His life insurance cover that issue? In his case, I would think so. Ray's issue as a very successful physician is that, he likes to have a good time and vacation and do those things. He's a little reluctant to sit down and figure out if he needs to tighten that budget a little bit. I think he would admit that himself. But most of the battle is just finding it out. And typically when I sit down with guys like this or gals, typically we find it's not nearly as bad as they think. Maybe there's a tweak here or there, but it's certainly not a complete shutdown of your lifestyle that's required. So it was really kind of interesting to hear them all talk about it in that way.
800 miles when it's all said and done,
Yes,
Ray?
800 miles.
800
Give or
miles.
take 20 miles.
Yeah.
400 with the blinker on.
I was,
Scott needs more left blinker fluid. He's almost running.
So they make fun of me because I left my blinker on for like an hour one day, which, you know, could happen to anybody.
Yeah.
It's loud in your helmet, you know?
Left blinker fluid.
You never know when I'm gonna turn. All right, well that concludes. You want to say that concludes
That
episode?
concludes episode 24 of ScottCast, the podcast.
Thank you.
Oh, this is important. So that is Skunk Ape. So if you go down into the glades, Skunk Ape lives down there, and that's obviously not Skunk Ape, but he lives out there. And this is a place you can go to visit and get your Skunk Ape stickers and all that sort of thing. That's actually my bike sitting right there, and as you can see, I'm a fan of stickers, so that's what we were doing there, is getting our Skunk Ape stickers. So this is in the Everglades itself. We've actually dove down into the glades and are riding on some of the old limestone roads back there, which is very cool. Podcast 24 was cool. We rode over, actually we ended up riding 900 miles before it was all said and done. The worst 20 miles were, I should turn that off. The worst 20 miles were through on OBT, trying to come home at 7 o'clock at night in rush hour traffic. That was the worst part. But, you know, one of the things I talk to clients about is finding their flow moments. There was a book written, and I can't remember the author's name, wrote a book called Flow. And you get it then by playing the drums, so I get it a little bit from playing the guitar. And I always use the same example, is when you were a little kid, especially those of us that are old folks, you know, we would just go play. You know, your parents would be like, see you gotta be home when the street lights. That was my thing, the street lights, come on. And I'd leave at 9, 8 o'clock in the morning and they wouldn't see me all day, which obviously people don't do with their children anymore. But when you were playing with your buddies, in my case, and you were playing wiffle ball, or you were building a fort or doing something you probably shouldn't be doing, that's flow, because you lost track of all time. I mean, you went out and the next thing you knew, you looked up and that street light was on.
Yeah.
You had blown it. First of all, you were in big trouble. But second of all, your mind was totally absorbed in what you were doing. Riding is one of those things I do because, let's face it, if you don't pay attention, you run into a tree or something, and that's not typically good. But, you know, it's different for different people. Some people it's tennis, some people it's golf, some people it's boating, there's just so many ways to do that. But I thought it'd be cool to do this video because I think today we struggle with that. We struggle to be in the moment, we struggle to shut down our devices, we struggle to stay away from the news. And I think it's, you know, I don't think I'm telling anybody anything they don't know. You and I just had this conversation, but the news and the social media stuff is extremely dangerous. They're selling you something, every single one of them. Everything you see is an attempt to sell you something. So it's just important you get away from that stuff for a little bit. And that's one of the ways I do it with my buddies. And we do 4 or 5 of those rides a year. And I come back completely refreshed. And then this time we learned a little something. So good stuff. Episode 24 in the books.